Good morning, all of you. Welcome back to the channel. So, starting with the analysis video for 17th of October, here we see कि Supreme Court it refers जो electoral bonds का case है to 5-judge constitutional bench. So, the topic of electoral bonds हमारे लिए important है. Top court cites importance of this issue for the decision and says कि it received this plea seeking the shift and the case is scheduled earlier. It will be listed on 31st of October. So, these are some nitty-gritties around it. So, what is important is कि जो मेन ऑब्जेक्टिव था बिहाइंड द इंट्रोडक्शन ऑफ इलेक्टोरल बॉन्ड्स दैट वाज ब्रिंगिंग ट्रांसपेरेंसी एंड मोर अकाउंटेबिलिटी which would generate trust of the people when it comes to the process of funding of the elections. So जो donations आती है in terms of finances, so उसको और transparent करने के लिए electoral bonds को जो प्रोसेस था उसको इंट्रोड्यूस किया गया था. तो हमारे लिए जो समझना जो एनालाइज करना इम्पोर्टेंट है कि क्या बेनिफिट्स है, क्या स्टिल कुछ लूप होल्स हैं जो बीच में अमेंडमेंट्स भी की गई थी, एंड क्या कितने हद तक इफेक्टिव रही, कितने हद तक सक्सेस रहा दिस प्रोसेस ऑफ इलेक्टोरल बॉन्ड्स, एंड डेफिनेटली सुप्रीम कोर्ट की जजमेंट वुड आल्सो मैटर ऑन दिस थिंग. सो बेसिकली यहाँ पे जो पिटिशन फाइल की गई है दैट इज to challenge the validation of electoral bond scheme जो facilitate करती है anonymous donations to the political parties, and this has been referred to constitution bench. तो इसमें एक पॉइंट ये है कि SBI बैंक जो है सिर्फ उसके थ्रू ही आप इलेक्टोरल बॉन्ड्स वहां पे डोनेट कर सकते हो जो बेसिकली डोनीज होंगे. सो यहाँ पे एक तो आपकी जो आइडेंटिटी है वो अनोनिमस रहेगी जब आप ब्रॉड लेवल पे बात करते हो, बट जो करंट गवर्नमेंट जो करंट पार्टी रूल कर रही है विच इज इन पावर, दे कैन गेट टू नो कि कौन से पर्सन ने कौन से पॉलिटिकल पार्टी को कितना डोनेशन किया है, बिकॉज दैट डिटेल इज देयर विद द पब्लिक सेक्टर बैंक. तो एक इस चीज को एक्सप्लॉइट किया जा सकता है. दिस इज अ काइंड ऑफ अ लूप होल व्हिच कैन बी एक्सप्लॉइटेड. एंड so Pravesh, do you want to add up some other dimensions to this?
Like मेरे हिसाब से थोड़े there should be given more teeth to the financial regulatory authorities, especially the enforcement directorate, and we have that vigilance department. So these agencies should be given more teeth to ensure that the funds which have been delivered by the corporates to the political parties, they are properly checked, because just allowing only one bank jurisdiction in this matter, it is something limiting the power of banking. So we should allow some more banks, because we have other banks also which are also working good.
Okay, another point is that Finance Act 2017 जो है it exempts the electoral bonds from disclosure under the Representation of Peoples Act 1951. तो basically जो ये disclosure के ऊपर exemptions लगा रखे limitations है ये हटा देनी चाहिए. And petitioners का कहना है कि जो 95% of electoral bonds sold की गई they have been in favor of one political party. तो ये जो information है that needs to be available in public domain as well, so that even जो electors अपना वोटिंग डिसीजन रहेंगे that can also be influenced with this availability of this data as well.
और इसी के साथ साथ मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि जो SBI है, जो कि कॉम्पिटेंट बैंक है इस सारी चीज को डील करने के लिए, उसको इलेक्शन से पहले जो इलेक्शन एफिडेविट में अमाउंट भरी जाती है कि किसने हमें कितना पैसा दिया, किस पार्टी ने कितना पैसा लिया, तो इसके साथ साथ जो हमारे ऑडिटर्स हैं उनकी भी एक रिपोर्ट के साथ आनी चाहिए इलेक्शन से पहले ही, कि जो कंपनी जिन्होंने पैसा दिया है उनका फाइनेंशियल क्रेडेंशियल कैसा है, उनकी फाइनेंशियल हिस्ट्री कैसी है. तो वो भी एक इम्पोर्टेंट फैक्टर है ताकि एक ओवरऑल पिक्चर क्रिएट हो सके.
ठीक है. तो जो इंडियन हिमालयन रीजन है दैट नीड्स इट्स ओन एनवायरमेंट इम्पैक्ट असेसमेंट. So this can be one of the good points when we talk about EIA. different regions के लिए according to the level of risk that is associated with different regions because of the impacts of climate change, that can be taken ahead, and obviously that would be impacting the decisions regarding coming up with different developmental projects. So recent जो glacial lake outburst disaster देखा हमने सिक्किम में, under that backdrop, now this becomes very important. So basis of जो environmental impact assessment है, that needs more scrutiny. So this is basically, it is a process which is defined by UNEP as a tool to identify कि suppose कोई project प्लान किया जा रहा है अपकमिंग प्रोजेक्ट, सो अगर वो प्रोजेक्ट इम्प्लीमेंट किया जाता है तो उस प्रोजेक्ट की वजह से एनवायरमेंटल, सोशल, इकोनॉमिक क्या इम्पैक्ट्स हो सकते हैं, सो उसको असेस एनालाइज करने के लिए वी डू दिस एनवायरमेंटल इम्पैक्ट असेसमेंट एक्सरसाइज. सो बेसिकली इस टूल के थ्रू वी कंपेयर और क्या ऑल्टरनेटिव्स हो सकते हैं, वंस वी गेट टू नो कि क्या पॉसिबल रिस्क हो सकते हैं विद द इम्प्लीमेंटेशन ऑफ अ पर्टिकुलर प्रोजेक्ट. So after that, we can also think about what can be other possible alternatives for that project, so that even project की implementation उसकी effectiveness भी hamper ना हो और वो negatively environment और हमारे economic interest को भी affect ना करे. So that is one thing. So it needs जो process है, now this should be comprehensive, जो reliable data है वो use किया जाना चाहिए, and this would deliver results only if it is designed to seek most appropriate, relevant and reliable information regarding the project. So we need to ensure कि again जो ये पूरा process है, methodology है, it need not be biased, and इसमें again political interference नहीं involved होनी चाहिए. So we see कि India में a precursor to this process, it began in 1976 when the Planning Commission directed the Department of Science and Tech to assess river valley projects. So it began from 1976, this time period से, and in the beginning we were using it for assessing the river valley projects from environmental point of view. So it was later then it was extended for all other projects that required the approval from the Public Investment Board and environment clearance. Then it was just a administrative decision hota tha of the central government. But now given the riskiness that is increased, which is obviously impacting the human lives also, so the importance of EI becomes much more compared to those times. So 1994 में यूनियन मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ एनवायरनमेंट, फॉरेस्ट एंड क्लाइमेट चेंज under the Environment Protection Act of 1986, they promulgated this first EIA notification making the environmental clearance mandatory for setting up some specified new projects, also for the expansion and modernization of some specific activities. So एक statutory amendment के बाद this process, this step was made mandatory. इससे पहले it was just an administrative tool. So notification of 1994 था, it saw 12 amendments 11 years में before it was replaced by this EIA 2006 notification. So 2006 में जो notification आया, that was it was focusing upon decentralization of this process, and state governments, they were also given the powers to issue these certain guidelines regarding the environmental impact assessment. So decentralization of powers to state government, that was one major change. And Union Ministry of Environment, Forest, Climate Change floated this draft EIA 2020 for public comment. So there was a little more amendments being done. So herein it was perceived to be pro-industry and compromising the ecological concerns. So basically जो 2020 का amendment था, this is one perception around that. So एक तरीके से this is one of the most potent regulatory tool which is available, but how we are using it, that makes all the difference. So Indian Himalayan region की जब हम बात कर रहे हैं, तो definitely जो vulnerabilities, fragility है, the risk, they have definitely increased in their intensity and scale also. So they have not been considered separately. So region wise, separately now we need to go ahead with the EIA thing. So Indian regulatory system जो है, it uses a graded approach, जिसमें it is a differentiated risk management approach depending upon जो project है that we are coming up with within a protected forest या reserved forest region है, national park है, critical tiger habitat है, तो एक तरीके से एक graded approach follow की जाती है right now. So stringency जो है environmental conditions की proposed in terms of references at the scoping stage of this EIA process, that is proportionate to the value and sensitivity of the habitat that is being impacted by the project. So one unfortunate miss from this graded approach for the differentiated risk management has been the IHR. So IHR is the Indian Himalayan region. So basically इतना हमने इस चीज पे ध्यान नहीं दिया है पहले, and because of that now we are seeing कि जो भी हमारे developmental pattern रहा या जो भी process रहा specifically hilly regions में, we are seeing one of the repercussions as the disaster that we are seeing in today's times. So what are other problems in EIA? So, but specifically कोई regulator नहीं है national level पे, which has also been suggested by the Supreme Court in 2011 in this case, to carry out an independent, objective and transparent appraisal and approval of the projects, and then also monitor the implementation of the conditions that have been laid down. So this is one reform that we can go ahead with as far as EIA and the process is concerned. And right now, जो EIA process right now reacts to the developmental proposals rather than anticipating them. So we need to move from reacting towards anticipation and objective analysis. So due the fact that they are financed by the project proponent, there is a veering in favor of the project also. So basically, जो bias देखी जाती है इस पूरे process में, we need to take that also into account and ensure कि एक objective तरीके से पूरी ये assessment exercise की जानी चाहिए. Otherwise, there is no point of doing it. So in many cases, EIA, it is also done in a box ticking approach manner. So like we have a kind of a questionnaire kind of thing prepare कर देते हैं on paper and we have that boxes. So एक इस तरीके से भी जो हमारी approach है, that is the current approach, more often we can say कि इस तरीके से approach follow की जाती है. तो this is kind of like mere formality की तरह EIA को लिया जा रहा है. So until and unless वो change in mindset नहीं होगा when it comes to people, the officers who are involved in doing this exercise, they will not understand the importance of this exercise, how important, how severely important and critical is this. तब तक कि again, we are not going to see the results on the ground also. So these are some things, a few aspects which are related to this. So anything new you want to discuss, Pravesh?
Yeah, so according to me, the EIA as such is not a bad thing.
Yeah.
EIA, since its 25 years journey in India, has provided a lot of strength also to the environment protection and environmental conservation. Number one. Now, if we are saying that the decentralization should be done of the EIA, and so basically that is also not going to sort out the problem, because the problem is not in center or state control. The problem is how we are implementing. So the problem lies in the implementation. So for this, we need to use the e-mechanism, the e-portal we need to create for the EIA submission, registration, transmission of the documents, so that a faceless transaction of the documents takes place between the contractors and the authorities, so that a smooth process comes, corruption get reduced, and I think then the implementation will happen. Because currently what actually happens in some of the cases is that when you go personally and show the files to the government officers, so definitely there are chances of getting corruption and red tapeism. So to avoid these kinds of problems, we can use some e-portals or digital portals to completely digitize this process, so that a proper scrutiny and surveillance also people get over these contracts. One more thing, in the EIA we have a provision of public views. So those public views should be very much be strengthened by having a percentage mechanism. Now what I mean to say is that the credibility of the whole project in the after the screening and after the registration of the documents should rely on 50% on the scientific criteria which the government will decide, and 50% on the locals aspirations, rehabilitation problems, development, environmental protection. So on the base on these factors, the public opinion should be taken, and particularly the important stakeholders opinion should be taken, and in that a percentage mechanism should be done. If in the 50% criteria, if 25% are saying that no, we should not allow, then the government should reject this. But if the less percent is saying let's suppose 10 or 15% is saying that there are apprehensions if this project will continue. So at that moment, our ratio should be driven, and on the basis of that, these projects should be continued. Because at the end, you have to take into incorporation the development as well as the aspirations of the locals. So I think these are few steps which I can raise as for now.
Okay, I would just like to put in one point that as you're saying कि एक fixed percentage होनी चाहिए when it comes to decision making as far as the concerns of the local community is concerned. So what if like you are saying कि 50% should be the proportion. So अगर 49% of the population oppose कर रही है तब आप क्या बोलोगे?
So obviously that project should not be done.
नहीं तो फिर आपने तो एक सीलिंग लिमिट कर दी ना, अगर 50% मीट हो गई वो तभी आगे अप्रूवल नहीं होगा. अगर 49% पॉपुलेशन उसको अपोज कर रही है तो इट डज नॉट मीन कि जो कंसर्न्स हैं वो लेस इंपॉर्टेंट हो जाते हैं. तो आई वुड नॉट गो बाय दिस कि एक फिक्स्ड परसेंटेज होनी चाहिए. जो भी कंसर्न्स लोकल कम्युनिटी एज अ होल वो रेज कर रहे हैं दैट नीड्स टू बी असेस्ड एंड एनालाइज्ड एंड देन वी नीड टू लुक फॉर कि क्या और कोई बेटर ऑल्टरनेटिव्स पॉसिबल हैं इंस्टेड ऑफ गोइंग विद द करंट प्लान और नॉट. तो जो कंसर्न्स हैं मेरे हिसाब से वो ज्यादा इंपॉर्टेंट है. डेफिनेटली ये इंपॉर्टेंट है कि जो लोकल कम्युनिटी की कंसर्न्स हैं वो सुनी जानी चाहिए. उनको इग्नोर हम नहीं कर सकते किसी भी कॉस्ट पे. एंड जो मेथड बेसिकली लोकल कम्युनिटी को इन दी एंड अडॉप्ट करना पड़ता है दैट इज दे हैव टू अगेन they have to basically just protest against the project. So instead of going with the protest, एक proper mechanism होना चाहिए या और basis होना चाहिए जो terms of reference of this EIA process वो clear
I
होने
think
चाहिए.
according to me, as we have the provisions of a annual or timely report by the Tribals Advisory Council, which is gone to the governor, and he presented to the state legislature. So similar kind of reports should be done by the Panchayati Raj institutions and the municipalities in the areas, and that report should have a uh, should have the views of the local stakeholders. So that would be a formal process rather than having a percentage then.
Yes, okay. So long-term risk क्या है with the artificial intelligence usage? So over the long term, the risks that present themselves over the long term are worth looking at. So herein, we see concerns about the amalgamation of AI and biotechnology, which highlights there is potential to fundamentally alter the human existence by manipulating human emotions, thoughts and desires. So longer time frame पे जो ये human behavior के ऊपर impact करेगी ये technology, that can be very significant. So हमारे लिए important हो जाता है कि किस तरीके से क्या क्या impacts possible हैं. So recent statement from the Center for AI Safety, more than 350 AI personnel, they have voiced their concerns over the potential risk which is posed by AI technology. So this can be one of the possible risks associated with this. And apart from this, there are certain intermediate and existential risk also of more evolved AI systems of the future. For example, if essential infrastructures like water, electricity, increasingly they rely on AI system. So again, this would also generate kind of a risky situation. Internal security, जो पूरा system है, network है, उसके लिए, उसकी functioning के लिए, it can turn out to be risky. So suppose कोई malfunction होता है या manipulation होता है because of such AI systems, that can lead to disruption of these pivotal services, which can definitely potentially hamper the societal functions and public well-being. So this can be the second challenge because of this. And with this, we see third challenge is runaway AI, which could cause more harm, like जो manipulation हो सकता है of the crucial systems like water distribution or the alteration of chemical balances in the water supplies also. It may cause catastrophic repercussions if such probabilities they appear in the distant future. So जो potential risk, existential risk है basically, the experts view it as more than just a tool, as a possible catalyst or for the dire outcomes, possibly leading to even extinction also. So it can be so much of a high risk and threat to even human existence also. So evolution to the human level AI that is capable of outperforming the human cognitive task, that will mark a pivotal shift in these risks also. But right now जो हमारे पास AI technology है, that is not capable कि it can overtake or it can outperform the human cognitive task. And right now जो role है, that is to supplement the human task, the human action. So efficiency जो enhancement हमें देखने को मिल रही है with this AI technology, तो right now that is the, you can say, implementation or usage of the AI technology, but we are talking about फ्यूचर में लॉन्ग टर्म में क्या पॉसिबिलिटीज हो सकती हैं. सो ये तीन मेन चैलेंजेस हैं. एंड देन देयर इज अनदर चैलेंज ऑफ मिलिट्री एआई. तो द कॉन्फ्लुएंस ऑफ टेक्नोलॉजी विद वॉरफेयर, इट एम्पलीफाइज द लॉन्ग टर्म रिस्क. Addressing perils of military AI, that is also crucial. This also needs to be thought upon कि क्या ये एक possibility हो सकती है. तो definitely it is possible. International community has formed treaties, like we have treaty on non-proliferation of nuclear weapons to manage potent technologies, demonstrating कि क्या again establish किया हमने global norms for AI in the warfare. That is a pressing thing, but definitely इसको attain करना भी possible है. So we need to come up with such global norms when it comes to usage of AI in the warfare. तो एक limitation होनी चाहिए कि इस technology को आप warfare में कहाँ तक use कर सकते हो और किन purposes के लिए ही आप इनका restricted usage allow करोगे. So we need to have global norms for this. So any other risk that you want to talk about, Pravesh, regarding AI?
We can move as per now.
Okay. So Bengaluru's waste management plan. What is the amount of waste जो city generate करती है in single day? How much is the existing capacity क्या है उनके waste processing facilities की? तो waste management जो पूरा plan है, let's understand उनसे हमारी क्या learnings हो सकती है. अगर कुछ important points है as learning points, तो क्या हम उनको इंडिया के different metropolitan cities में implement कर सकते हैं, नहीं कर सकते, in order to deal with this problem of waste. So capacity will not go into much of the capacity. So here we see कि जो problem है, there is capacity shortfall that Bengaluru has made the decision to identify locations for 4 additional waste processing facilities outside the city. So basically एक definitely तो simple point है कि आपके पास adequate capacity होनी चाहिए when it comes to waste management, treating the waste. So existing facilities ने कैसे perform किए historically? जो composting facilities had most waste processing sites which have been set up in Bengaluru, like these are different sites. So they have encountered strong opposition rooted largely in inefficient operations at these plants. So simply plants construct करना is also not the solution. अगर the plants they are not functioning in an efficient manner, so that also creates a problem. So similarly even Delhi में भी हमें ऐसी प्रॉब्लम्स देखने को मिल रही है when we talk about the landfill sites, and जो उनकी capacity है they are again operating beyond their capacity. So जो plants है they have indeed consistently received more waste than their designed capacities, and they have operated at less than 50% efficiency. So excess quantity of material and less efficiency, that has created a problem there. So जो local concerns हैं हम इन्हें और कैसे address कर सकते हैं? तो addressing the order and the leachate concerns, that is paramount short term, and these plants they should have the tertiary level facilities. Like one of the possible solutions can be creating engineered landfill sites also. So again that can be one sustainable thing, and that is tertiary level facilities be functional, they should be available in order to treat the leachate and ensure कि they are properly treated and they are suitable for the internal use as well. Basically recycling of industry में कैसे ये वेस्ट जो ट्रीट किया जाएगा उसको हम और आगे कैसे यूज कर सकते हैं, तो पूरा एफिशिएंसी के ऊपर डिपेंड करेगा. जो टर्शरी लेवल फैसिलिटीज की अवेलेबिलिटी है ये चीज उसके बेसिस पे डिटरमाइन की जाएगी. एंड जो डेफिनेटली सराउंडिंग एरियाज में ह्यूमन हैबिटेशंस हैं उनके लिए मेन कंसर्न्स डेफिनेटली ऑर्डर है, वेस्ट प्रोसेसिंग फैसिलिटीज दैट इज हाई in the current technology or the plants that we have available, that is high moisture content in the material when it is being composed. तो कुछ conditions रहती है, even all types of waste cannot be treated. So nature of जो waste है और जो waste हम treat नहीं कर सकते उसको हम कैसे transform भी कर सकते हैं in the waste which is suitable to be treated. तो वो एक particular area है जहाँ पे we need to explore more. So turning the composting material around at the frequent intervals, even that can expedite the composting process and minimize the order, because your material hai, that will be well aerated and regulated. So this can be one thing. And so जो existing facilities hai, they need to be repurposed. So how we can repurpose them? You already like these are similar points जो भी हमने बात करी. तो जो dry waste segregation facilities हैं, they are less likely to pose the problems to the residents as they don't produce leachate or odor. So एक ये चीज है, and they can also create job opportunities also for the people in terms of sorting, baling, bagging and other related activities in each facility. So यहाँ पे again हम जो engineering skills हैं, they can also be utilized. So advanced job opportunities भी create की जा सकती हैं. So scientifically कैसे हम इन plants को develop कर सकते हैं, landfill sites को हम कैसे scientifically with the help of engineered sites, engineering skills जो है उनको utilize करके कैसे we can create such sites. तो यहाँ से again जो job opportunities रहेंगी दोनों nature की रहेंगी. And setting up new waste processing ये हम देख चुके हैं, ultimate solution ये नहीं है. Then we have the municipal solid waste management rules which have been issued, and then NGT's guidelines. So we need to be aware about क्या rules हैं, क्या guidelines हैं NGT की, as well as जो environmental obligations are towards the state, that is also important. So even understanding it as your fundamental duty of each, again, civil society organization of the governments, that is also important. So success जो रहेगा proposed facilities का, sustainable use of existing facilities, ये depend करेगा हमारी strategy क्या है, कैसे हम current technology को use कर रहे हैं, कैसे उसका environmental impact हो रहा है, environmental impact को कितना seriously हम ले रहे हैं, social impact जो हो रहा है उसको कितना seriously हम समझ रहे हैं और उसके लिए हम action लेना चाहते हैं. Past experiences से हम learn कर सकते हैं. Again, बेंगलुरु के experience से different metropolitan cities learn कर सकती हैं. So these are some important areas that can be thought about, and yeah, so these are all the points.
So Mansi, I would like to give few points.
Okay.
क्या क्या कर सकते हैं. सबसे पहला, segregation at source पे ध्यान दिया जाए by the municipalities. Number 2, बायोरेमिडिएशन एंड इंसिनरेशन टेक्निक, जो हमारी इंजीनियर टेक्निक्स हैं उनको, उनकी जो रोबस्टिंग है वो अच्छे से हो, और इसकी जो इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर है उसको थोड़ा बड़े लेवल पे जो स्टेट गवर्नमेंट है वो करे. इसके बाद जो हमारी लैंडफिल साइट्स हैं उनका प्रॉपर आइडेंटिफिकेशन हो, उनका रिक्रिएशन भी हो, और उन लैंडफिल साइट्स को हम बेसिकली एक पार्क लाइक फैसिलिटीज बना सकते हैं. दूसरा, रिसाइकलिंग पे फोकस करें. और फिर है कि जियो टेक्सटाइल, हॉट एंड कोल्ड मिक्स एस्फॉल्ट टेक्नोलॉजी, ये सारे एरियाज ऐसे हैं जहां पर इस वेस्ट को यूज किया जा सकता है काफी हद तक. उसके बाद जो पॉलीथीन की हमारे जो साइंटिफिक रेशियोज हैं, वही पॉलीथीन, मतलब जो हमारी बहुत मिनिमम पॉलीथीन आती है जिसकी स्ट्रेंथ बहुत मिनिमम होती है, दैट शुड बी अवेलेबल. एंड ऑल अदर काइंड ऑफ पॉलीथीन्स व्हिच आर हाईली रेजिस्टेंस टू डिग्रेडेशन, दे शुड बी बैंड कंप्लीटली. अपार्ट फ्रॉम दैट, दिस वेस्ट, इसमें से हमें ये आइडेंटिफाई कर लेना चाहिए कि इसमें से कितना ऐसा है जिसको हम बायो वेस्ट मान सकते हैं और उसका रिसाइकल कर सकते हैं, एंड दैट शुड बी फॉरवर्डेड टू द एग्रीकल्चर, टू द फार्मर्स, so that their agriculture productivity gets increased. Apart from that, in the industrial sector, because Bangalore is the IT capital of India, so industrial effluent should not be dumped in the drains, especially in these lakes. As we can see that in the Ulsur lake, there is a huge number of industrial and domestic waste, which will lead to eutrophication and algal blooms also, and that will lead to health hazards like problem to the city. Then we can adopt Indore model of cleanliness, where the Indore is getting Swachh Bharat award since last 5 years because of the active engagement of the district administration, local administration, and the active use of the NGOs. Then apart from that, we have agencies like Quality Control of India. So these agencies should have some checks and balance in the food courts in the city, because majority of the waste which is generated and which leads to a lot of smell and problems in the city, even health hazards, that comes from the restaurants, hotels. So quality control council and quality control agencies should have a proper checks and balance, and they should do routine checks in these hotels, and with these measures we can reduce this problem to a large extent.
Okay, so in the end, I would just like to say a statement on the basis of this picture. That's how we do not we would not like to see our smart cities to be in this manner. And even the color of this water speaks volumes about the level of pollution. So at the one side we can see there's a lot of plastic waste, and in the far away you can see high-rise buildings. So that's how we would not like to have a vision for our smart cities.
Yes.
Okay, palliative care, which is a way to reduce the financial distress for the people with life-limiting diseases. So it is a moral obligation of the health system to take care of the people, especially when they are suffering from the lifelong and life-limiting illnesses. So in a way, जो ethics का angle है वो आ जाता है. You need to understand, you need to take it as a service, you need to take it as your duty. तो जब तक वो अगेन आपकी कॉन्शियस के अंदर से नहीं आएगा, things would not change. Early initiation of palliative care in the patients with the advanced disease that is shown to reduce the health expenditure by up to 25% also. So financial distress भी इसके थ्रू हम reduce कर सकते हैं. Overall अगर हम इंडिया में हेल्थ केयर सर्विसेज की बात करें तो we focus more on curative aspect instead of preventive and the palliative care. So एडिक्वेट अटेंशन बाकी एरियाज में भी दी जानी चाहिए. एंड राइजिंग कॉस्ट ऑफ हेल्थ, आउट ऑफ पॉकेट एक्सपेंडिचर की हम बात करते हैं. ओवरऑल ट्रेंड की अगर हम बात करें तो आउट ऑफ पॉकेट एक्सपेंडिचर डिक्लाइन हो रहा है, बट जिस पेस से डिक्लाइन हो रहा है वो स्लो है, एंड जो करंट लेवल है वो कंपैरेटिवली हायर है. सो दिस इज वन थिंग अबाउट द आउट ऑफ पॉकेट एक्सपेंडिचर. एंड वी आर ऑल्सो सीइंग द डिजीज बर्डन अराउंड द नॉन कम्युनिकेबल डिजीजेस इज ऑल्सो बीन राइजिंग. सो this is one thing, and this will push more people into poverty as they require lifelong treatment and periodic health checkups. So this is one thing, and often leads to financial toxicity wherein there is a risk of bankruptcy also, decreased treatment satisfaction, foregoing or delays in seeking further medical care, poor quality of life हो सकती है उसकी वजह से, and then in the end poor survival rate also. So right now जो हमारी GDP है for the healthcare sector, that is only 1.35%. So this is also one of the areas we have the target of increasing the GDP share to 2.5% as far as the healthcare sector is concerned. So this needs to be increased. Apart from this, importance of palliative care क्या है? One, we have seen कि financial distress reduce हो सकती है, and this is a branch of medicine that looks at improving the quality of life of the people who are having the life limiting illnesses. So यहाँ कहीं ना कहीं जो mental health है that also becomes important. So it is different from other medical specialties, as जो यहाँ पे focus किया जाता है that is on elevating uncontrolled symptoms of the incurable illnesses. तो जो diseases हैं they cannot be cured, but जो symptoms हैं हम उनको improve, उनको elevate कर सकते हैं. And long term में definitely एक ये positive possibility भी exist करती है कि disease ultimately cure भी किए जा सकते हैं, but medicine के help के through they cannot be cured. ऐसा कोई treatment exist नहीं करता for these kinds of diseases. So your thinking matters a lot when you're dealing with such kind of diseases. So that is why palliative care becomes important. So we see there is lack of investment in the palliative care services, and for that again we can, as we just talked about, the share of GDP needs to be increased. Apart from this, even awareness around this palliative care, that is also very low in case of the healthcare workers also. Just forget about the civil society. Healthcare workers में ही awareness level इतना low है, and obviously general public में तो वो low होगा ही अगर healthcare workers में वो इतना low level पे है. And it is also not covered under the insurance schemes in India, so this needs to be considered. So दो main factors हैं जिनकी वजह से we have seen which has resulted in poor demand and poor access to the palliative care in the country. Unplanned and abysmal funding, that has also been one of the barriers to the public healthcare centers. providing the palliative care. So funding is another problem, awareness is one of the problems, lack of awareness is the problem, and then apart from this, प्राइमरी और सेकेंडरी हेल्थ सेंटर्स की अगर हम बात करें तो अगेन वी आर नॉट हैविंग एनी काइंड ऑफ प्रोविजन इवन एट द माइक्रो लेवल और द लोअर लेवल ऑल्सो. सो आयुष्मान भारत प्रोग्राम की बात करें, इट इज अ पार्ट ऑफ दिस, बट इम्प्लीमेंटेशन की जब हम बात करते हैं तो स्टिल इट रिमेन्स अ डिस्टेंट रियलिटी. So palliative care, it is not a wealth generating specialty, but it is an expense saving one. Increasingly privatized Indian health system has by and large chosen to neglect this specialty, barring a few exceptions. So that's there, and definitely this needs to be incorporated into the Indian healthcare system. So these are all the areas regarding the importance of the palliative care and the current state. What else can be done as far as incorporating it is concerned?
So in this topic, Mansi, I would say that we need to focus on 4 to 5 aspects. Number one, this palliative care is not being given. इसका एक सबसे बड़ा एक कारण क्या है कि जो डॉक्टर पेशेंट का और मेडिकल फ्रेटर्निटी और जो पेशेंट का जो रेशियो है वो बहुत ही खराब है इंडिया में, जिसके बारे में हमने शायद कल भी बात की थी. दैट वी हैव अराउंड 500 लोगों पर एक डॉक्टर, सो दैट लीड्स टू अ लॉट ऑफ mental pressure on the doctors, that leads to abuse, and that leads to unethical behavior which is witnessed number of times by the doctors, that leads to fight in the hospitals, and bloodshed also happens and the police registers the cases. So सबसे बड़ी इसमें इम्प्रूवमेंट कहाँ देखने को मिल रही है, that today what we are, when we are focusing on national health authority, national जन आरोग्य योजना, national health identification card, where you can just register on the health medical website of different hospitals and you can take the appointment online. So that is a good regard which the government of India has started, where the patients need not to go to hospitals um, to take the treatment. They first have to appoint.
Curative
They
care
first have
में आ
to
जाएगा ना
register.
प्रवेश, जो आप बात
What?
कर रहे हो वो तो क्यूरेटिव केयर का पार्ट हो गया ना. जो हम पैलिएटिव केयर की बात करें, एक जो पॉइंट स्टार्टिंग में आपने रेज किया कि स्किल्ड वर्कफोर्स नहीं है, स्किल्ड हमारे पास मेडिकल प्रैक्टिशनर्स नहीं है फॉर द पैलिएटिव केयर, तो दैट कैन बी वन ऑफ द रिफॉर्म पॉइंट्स जिस पे अगेन हमें फोकस करना चाहिए. पर जो आप बोल रहे हो कि नेशनल हेल्थ डेटा क्रिएट करने की हम बात कर रहे हैं, जो उनका सारी हेल्थ केयर डिटेल्स होंगी वो अवेलेबल रहेंगी ऑन सिंगल प्लेटफॉर्म, सो दैट वुड बी अ कंपोनेंट ऑफ क्यूरेटिव केयर.
ओके, तो इसमें आप कोई सोल्यूशन देंगे, मतलब किस तरीके से, अगर आपके हिसाब से कोई सोल्यूशन है पैलिएटिव केयर के लिए?
सी पैलिएटिव केयर के लिए हमें जो हम ड्यूरिंग द आर्टिकल ही हमने बात करी कि और क्या चीजें की जानी चाहिए. सो फर्स्टली जो मेन प्रॉब्लम है दैट इज एक तो लैक ऑफ अवेयरनेस अमंग्स द हेल्थ केयर वर्कर्स, इंपॉर्टेंस क्या पैलिएटिव केयर की उनको पता ही नहीं है कि बेसिकली आप कैसे पेशेंट्स को ट्रीट करोगे व्हेन इट कम्स टू पैलिएटिव केयर सर्विसेज दैट वुड बी प्रोवाइडेड बाय देम. सेकंड इज फंडिंग प्रॉब्लम. तो फंडिंग में वी टॉक्ड अबाउट कि जीडीपी नीड्स टू बी इंक्रीज टू 2.5%, जिस पे हम फोकस कर रहे हैं. तो importance of funding becomes very crucial for this. Then जो एक और मेजर इंपॉर्टेंस है दैट इज फाइनेंशियल डिस्ट्रेस रिड्यूस हो सकता है. तो आउट ऑफ पॉकेट एक्सपेंडिचर डिक्लाइन हो रहा है, बट अगेन दैट आल्सो नीड्स टू बी टेकन इनटू अकाउंट कि जो करंट लेवल है वो अभी भी हायर लेवल पे है. एंड जब हम आयुष्मान भारत प्रोग्राम की बात करते हैं तो आयुष्मान भारत प्रोग्राम का पार्ट है पैलिएटिव केयर, बट स्टिल वो अभी प्राइमरी और सेकेंडरी हेल्थ केयर सेंटर्स तक अभी नहीं पहुंचा है. तो वहां पे जो गैप एग्जिस्ट करता है वी नीड टू ब्रिज दैट गैप ऑल्सो. एंड जो आपने एक रिफॉर्म मेजर आइडेंटिफाई किया कि स्किल्ड मेडिकल प्रैक्टिशनर्स की अवेलेबिलिटी स्पेसिफिकली फॉर द पैलिएटिव केयर वो होना भी इम्पोर्टेंट है.
ओके, इसी के साथ मेरे हिसाब से जो मेडिकल एथिक्स है हमारे, उसमें भी पैलिएटिव केयर के ऊपर इतना ध्यान देना चाहिए.
यहाँ पे
जिसकी
स्टार्टिंग में लिखा मॉरल ऑब्लिगेशन है.
यस,
तो एज अ ड्यूटी वी नीड टू अंडरस्टैंड कि अगेन वो जो आपकी कॉन्शियस इनर सेल्फ से जब तक आप उस चीज को नहीं समझोगे तब तक वो बिहेवियर में भी रिफ्लेक्ट नहीं होंगी चीजें.